So it's starting to get dark, and the wind and the rain are still falling outside. This is look out how this atmosphere, and the little Jane is really scared. She's really scared about what all of she's around her. Jane's beginning to freak out. What's the creepy red room? Jane decided that Mr. Reed were here now. She tried to think about her uncle, Mr. Reed. What if he were now here? What we would do? She thought that he would be nicer to her than his widow. Of course, she means Mrs. Reed and her children. And she starts to worry that he might come back from the grave to try to comfort her. She thought that when I'm feeling that sad, my uncle will come back from his grave and come to comfort me. But this feeling was just creepy for her. Jane tries to calm down so that Mr. Reed's ghost doesn't appear. But then she sees a weird stick. She sees a weird stick of light. Where it's coming from? She tried to ask herself, she tried to just gather all of these imaginations inside her head. And she was really, really scared. She tried to imagine weird things. Look at this is stick, okay? She saw a light, but she imagined that light as a ghost, making shadows. She asked herself, where it's come from? Is it from the moon? Is it from the lantern? Maybe it's a ghost. Joan screams when she realized that maybe it's a ghost. So the poor Jane. Bessie and Abbott come running, of course, after she screams. Come running and ask what's the matter. Bessie seems sympathetic with the terrified Jane. She really looks terrified. When Jane tells her that she thought she saw a ghost, she tells Jane hold her hand, but Abbott, she was strict. Think that Jane is just trying to trick them into letting her out. This girl trying to trick us. She's trying to make us believe that she's so terrified and saw ghost in order to let her out. So next, Mrs. Reed comes to see what all of that noise was. She's made that servants didn't obey her orders to leave Jane alone. So Mrs. Reed punishes Jane with another hour alone in the red room, instead of telling her that everything was fine, just fine, and try to calm her down. But instead, the cruel Mrs. Reed really punishes Jane for more than an hour in that creepy room. And as she leaves, Jane faints. Of course, the little poor girl, she couldn't really hold all of that stress. So this is the end of this chapter, or as I said, this is the most major point or important points that happened in the first chapter, which called the Red Room. Now let's practice to make a progress. Okay, so in novel we just have many different question styles, but today we are going to have two major styles. The first one is ask the following questions. Let's see. The first question here: why didn't Jane join the family circle? Come on, try to think. You can just pause the video and try to think about the answer. Why didn't Jane join the family circle? The answer is simply because the maid Bessie, or the nursemaid Bessie, complained about Jane that she is naughty and she didn't deserve to be with the family circle. Of course, this is from their point of view. Second question. What was Jane afraid of at the window seat? Try to think. What was Jane afraid of at the window seat when she was hiding? Come on. Yeah, I can hear you answer. You are correct. That's right. She was hiding from the greedy, from the bully, Mr. John Reed. She was hiding from anyone, from her cousins, while she reading a book. The third question. Why didn't Jane love John Reed? Why didn't Jane love John Reed? Think. Why? Why she didn't love him? For sure, you are right. Actually, the first thing, because he bullied to her all over the time. Every time he insists to call her rat. You are a little rat. And hit her with no reason. And all the time asking her to call him master. Of course, because he considered her just a servant or less than a servant. All of that reasons make Jane for sure can't love this boy. Let's move on. Why did Mrs. Reed ask to take Jane away to the Red Room? Why did Mrs. Reed ask to take Jane away to the Red Room? Try to think. Yeah, you're right. That's it. As a punishment. As a punishment to Jane after her wickedness and her quarreling and fighting with her son John Reed. Of course, she decided to take Jane away to the Red Room as a punishment of her wickedness and rudeness. Of course, forgetting about her son. So, now let's move on to the second style questions, which is the comment on the following. And just I want you to know that when I ask you to comment about any question, you have some consequence you have to know, or you have some steps to answer these questions. First, you need to say who said these words and to whom. What about the situation, or tell us about the whole situation. And if you can just add any comments of your own about this quotation or situation. Let's see an example here. Let's see our model here. The first one here, where are you, rat? We need to comment on this. Where are you, rat? I mentioned that a little while. The model answer that you should say, this word said by, come on, I can hear you, you are correct, yeah. This word said by John Reed. To whom? For sure, to the poor Jane. So this word said by John Reed to Jane Eyre. Okay, this is the first part of the question. Then we are going to complete the answer. Why do you think he said that? He said that because he was trying to search for her. He trying to find her. He couldn't find her. So after he find her hiding behind the curtains, so he told her that, or he told her, where are you, rat? Okay, so this is the situation. And we can just add general comment on that all of the time John Reed all of the time bullied Jane Eyre by calling her rat, or insult her by calling her rat. Okay, let's move on to another comment or quotation. You are a Polly. You are as bad as a murder. Again, you are a Polly. You are as bad as a murder. Come on, try to guess. Who said these words? I think it's very or obvious clear that such an answer or such a response for Jane on her or just the wicked cousin John. So we can say that this word said by Jane to, of course, her cousin John Reed. So this word said by Jane Eyre to her cousin John Reed. Of course, when the same situation, when John finding her hiding behind the curtains, and he took the book from her and smacked her face and hit her with the book hard, that she was in a great pain. After that, she was crazy about this pain, and she told him that you are a bully and you are as bad as a murderer. Okay, let's move on to the third one. God will punish you for your wicked heart. Pray to God and say you are sorry. Again, God will punish you for your wicked heart. Pray to God and say you are sorry. Come on, let's try to think. Who gave this advice and scolding? Of course, for sure, yeah, you're right. This is Bessie, the maid. So these were said by Bessie, the maid of Mrs. Reed, to Jane Eyre. When she kept her, or she just let her in the red room, or she kept her in the red room and asking her or blaming her or scolding her for hitting her master, from her point of view, Mr. John Reed, and reminding her that you just as a servant here, or less than a servant, because you didn't pay for your staying here in this house. So you have to pray for God, and you have to say sorry for your wickedness and rudeness. Okay, so my dear students, I hope this video really or I hope all of that session beneficial to you. I hope that. And actually, this is the end of our session for today. This was just, as I said, the summary or the most important points for the first chapter. Of course, you need to read the whole chapter in detail in order to be able to answer any comments according to this chapter. So thank you for your having me today. Thank you. See you later. This is me, Mrs. Rania, your instructor in this video. Thank you and see you again. Bye.